Hello, everybody. I know this is an unusual video because you look at my channel and there's Roblox, there's Ultrakill, there's Limbas Company, there's Minecraft, but now Form 4 History Chapter 10. So yes, this is my presentation on Chapter 10. This isn't for classwork or anything. I did this so I can make myself suffer. So, let's get on with it. This video is for those Chinese bananas who can't understand their Chinese tutors, can't understand their school teacher. It's fine. I'm here. I'm chroma with 5 A's at the end. So, Kemerdekaan Persekutuan Tanah Melayu. So at the time, Malaysia was not called Malaysia. It was called Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, the federal Malay land, right? Federal, probably. And so the composition of this chapter, there's a lot. There's 5 subtopics, but I will only cover the definitions, the many definitions. Oh fuck. I've only covered the many definitions according to the National Dictionary, according to Tunku Abdul Rahman, this handsome fella right here, and Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Only those. And the persediaan, the preparations, kesan-kesan, the effects, yeah, all that stuff. So let's get into it. So, jadi apa maksud kemerdekaan? So, what does independence actually mean? Well, according to these 4 sources, kemerdekaan bermaksud hak untuk rakyat menentukan sendiri bentuk dan hala tuju negara tanpa pengaruh kuasa asing. What does this mean? Well, it's very easy, you see. You're all just Okay, I can't put that. It means the right for civilians to determine by themselves the shape and the direction of their country without external influence of other countries. According to the National Dictionary, Kamus Dewan, kemerdekaan bermaksud kebebasan daripada penjajahan, kurungan atau negeri naungan. Kebebasan means freedom from colonization, cages, or other countries. Negeri naungan. You know, how I translate it, I use Google Translate, but Google Translate doesn't give me a very good translation for negeri naungan, so I still don't know what it quite means, but it's probably just a country that likes to colonize other countries. So, moving on, you see these gold stars. That means these are very important for this time's exam, for the end-year exam of 2025 Tingkatan 4. So, for these 2, they're very important. But by the time you're watching it, it'll be over. So, whatever, you can read on some other definition. But let's get on with it. Tunku Abdul Rahman says, kemerdekaan bermaksud tempat perhentian dalam Tunku Abdul Rahman says, kemerdekaan bermaksud tempat perhentian dalam perjalanan yang jauh untuk mewujudkan sebuah negara baharu yang daulat. So what does this mean? Very easy. It's a resting place in the long road in order to create a new country which has the right to rule, which is, or you can say, a new country, a new sovereign country, basically. If you don't know what sovereign means, go fuck. I know, it's a very common word in Sejarah, but it's not used a lot in English, to my knowledge. Anyways, let's see. The modern Prime Minister, I don't know which one he is, I'm not into politics, but he says, Kemerdekaan bermaksud menghayati semangat jiwa merdeka dengan menyayangi negara sepenuh hati dan sanggup berkorban untuk negara dengan apa-apa cara. What does this mean? Also very easy. Menghayati, appreciate the spirit of independence by loving your country wholeheartedly and willingly sacrificing for the country by any means necessary. So, this is 10.1. Very easy. You only need to remember a few definitions. Definitely these two on the top are the universal definitions you can use. I just personally, my favorite one would probably be the one from Gamus Dewan or Tunku Abdul Rahman. Mainly because this one, Gamus Dewan, very easy to remember, and it's very short. Shortest one here. And Tunku Abdul Rahman because, well, it's quite poetic and, you know, it describes a scene. It's very beautiful. Anyways, let's move on to 10.2. Persediaan untuk Merdeka. So, these are the two committees that were in charge. So if you have any pre-existing knowledge of Sejarah Tingkatan 4, then you'll know that this chapter takes place after when Tunku Abdul Rahman took a boat to the high something Mahkamah Tinggi British in order to discuss the terms of independence. And of course, that's a different chapter, so I won't get too into it, but I'm just giving some context here. This chapter happens after that, of course. They successfully discuss the terms of independence, and then they confirm the date for it, which is the 31st of August, 1957. If you live in Malaysia, you should know that. So anyways, these are the two committees that were created in order to prepare for the celebration of the first Independence Day. So here are the translated for you. Jawatan Kuasa means committee. And this two here just means the plural in Malay. It's how you quickly write plurals in Malay. Otherwise you need to write it twice with a dash in the middle. I'm not a Malay teacher. Let's move on. So, first we have Jawatan Kuasa Persediaan Fizikal. So, here I put 5 pictures representing what they contributed, and here Jawatan Kuasa Sambutan, what they contributed. Obviously, this is, well, not obviously, but just for me, this is easier to remember, because these are physical things that you can see in the real world. Besides from this is like stuff that it's in history. They probably don't exist anymore, including these pagawai here. Anyways, these aren't actually the pagawai, by the way. I just couldn't find a good image for it, hence why I had to put the word pagawai. If you don't know what pagawai means, it means officer. So, Jawatan Kuasa Persediaan Physical, the Physical Preparations Committee, Jawatan Kuasa Sambutan, the Celebration Committee. Let's move on. So, firstly, we have Jawatan Kuasa Persediaan Fizikal. So, it's very subtle. You probably won't notice it, but in the background here, you can see Gojo Satoru from the hit anime series Jujutsu Kaisen. So, I don't know when you'll be watching this. I don't know if JJK will still be popular, but it's popular right now, and it teaches people well when you put their favorite things into the teaching process, so that's what I did here. I don't actually like JJK that much, but that's besides the point. Gojo Satoru, you can say that the process of making his 200% hollow purple, you can say that is the celebration of the first Independence Day. The first ever 31st of August where Malaya was independent. So you can say the physical preparations were him summoning red and blue. So this is also very important. The tujuan, the motive of this committee, which is to menonjolkan identiti negara sebagai sebuah negara yang akan memperoleh kemerdekaan. So here you'll notice I spelled identity in the English way, This is obviously not how you spell identity in Malay, but you know, it's what happens when you try to rush a presentation for something that isn't even necessary. But you know, this is for me, for me to face the exams. So menonjolkan identity negara, it means to express the identity of the country as a country which is going to obtain independence. Very very simple. You know, here it looks very large, so it looks like it's a very long sentence. It's not. If you this is a trick I used a lot when studying for history, but instead of trying to memorize a sentence or anything like that, you can just remember the meaning and roughly write it out in the same or similar words during the exams, and you know it'll be correct because it brings the same meaning, so it's the same thing. Anyways, let's move on. Finally, I'm sorry. So, firstly, we have the pembinaan sebuah stadium untuk merayakan kemerdekaan and pembinaan istana negara untuk YDPA. So what does YDPA stand for? I'll get to that in a moment. So first, we have pembinaan sebuah stadium untuk merayakan kemerdekaan. What does this mean? The construction of a stadium in order to celebrate independence. Now this will probably land you 1 mark. I'm not so sure. I don't actually have the marking scheme. This is what I'm guessing is the mark. Maybe if your teacher is generous, maybe they'll give you another mark for untuk merayakan kemerdekaan as the huraian. You know, if you're familiar with the marking scheme of sejarah, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, then basically what it comes down to is if you have 1 mark as isi, which is the fact, and then another mark huraian, which is the explanation. That's basically how the marking scheme works. You put a fact, you put the explanation, put another fact, put an explanation. Sometimes you put a fact, explanation, example, and effect, and then you get 4 marks for that. But that's for Hobbes questions, the high order thinking questions. That's also besides the point. I keep getting off topic. I'm so sorry. Let's move on. So, pembinaan istana negara untuk YDPA. What does YDPA stand for? YDPA stands for Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Now, I'm not actually so sure what this translates to in English. However, you can just sort of think of it as another governmental role. It doesn't really matter if you think about it. I mean, do you really care about politics, or are you just trying to pass your history? Exactly. So, this means the construction of the national castle for the YDPA. YDPA is, of course, a job or a role, so you can just think of it as a person. So, let's move on. Okay, second point. Penggunaan bendera PTM. Not to be confused with Jalur Gemilang, the bendera of Malaysia today. Now, if you write the bendera Malaysia during your exams, you will get it wrong. Why? Because for this event, Jalur Gemilang was not used. Why? Because a simpler version of the flag was used with lesser stripes than the actual flag of PTM. So, by writing Jalur Gemilang, you automatically write a factually wrong sentence. Hence why you get it wrong. So you have to write Bendera PTM. If you don't remember what PTM means, PTM stands for Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, Federal Malayan Land. So there we go. Very easy. PTM is often abbreviated. No. Persekutuan Tanah Melayu is often abbreviated into PTM because it's easier. But, you know, for those who don't know, remember this now. Another thing, do not write Penciptaan Bendera PTM because the flag wasn't created by the Physical Preparations Committee. It was created during a competition. Now, where did I get this information? I got it from ChatGPT. Not too proud of that one. So let's move on. So when you see this bullet point here, and then you see this arrow here, it means this bullet point is the fakta, as we discussed earlier, the fact, and this arrow means the huraian, or the explanation. So, Yes, obviously, penggunaan bendera PTM, the usage of the PTM flag. And in the explanations, you can say the flag of PTM was created by this person, Muhammad Hamza. He's probably the guy who took part in that competition and won. Good job. So, kudos to him. So this will land you 2 marks because obviously you have one sentence for fact and the other one for explanation. 2 points. Very easy, right? So, next. We have Penciptaan Lagu Negaraku. This will land you 1 mark. And these 2 hurayan will land you 2 more. So 3 in total. But I don't recommend you to harp on one fakta and remember all of its hurayan. Because I guess you can say that if you only harp on one fakta and explain all of its hurayan, sometimes that fact will not have enough explanations for you to get the full marks on that question. If that makes sense. Because obviously, if you're writing it in a structure question, in the structure section, then you'll get lucky. Maybe you can finish writing all the hurayan, but generally, I mean, you should try to remember all of it. Like, it's not even all that difficult to remember. I mean, these are all existing things that play a large role in our lives today as Malaysians. Right? We have the stadium, which maybe you go to it, the istana, which maybe you go to it, but why would you? And the flag, which you've definitely seen if you're above the age of 5. And the Nagaraku, which you've definitely sang if you're above the age of 6. So yeah, let's get to the explanations and translations. The creation of the Nagaraku song, or the national anthem of Malaysia. But do not write that. Do not write that. It's like, the marking scheme is like very strict for me, and in turn, maybe the marking scheme will be less strict for you, but still you need to prepare yourself for a stricter marking scheme just in case. So let's move on. The national anthem actually comes from the song Terang Bulan, with its lyrics being written by Saiful Bahari. So, what is Terang Bulan exactly? Why is this song? Why did it directly inspire the creation of Lagu Negaraku? Well, let me tell you. It is actually the national anthem of a Malaysian state, which is the Perak state. It was the national... I don't know if it still is. I don't live in Perak, but for obvious reasons, I'm not going to expose where I live. But obviously, I don't know if this is still the national anthem for Perak. You can find that out yourself.
Find it out yourself.
And yeah. So the lyrics. So here, the lyrics of Terang Bulan was written by Saiful Bahari, not Lagu Negaraku, according to the sources I have at hand. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But if you write this during the exams, you won't get it wrong. So it generally doesn't matter. So besides this, if you don't trust this hurayan, then you can write this one. You can write Tunku Abdul Rahman mencadangkan sebuah lagu kebangsaan dicipta. So what does this mean? Tunku Abdul Rahman recommended that a national song be created. And let's move on. This is the Jata Negara. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a hurayan for this. But hey, on the bright side, it's very easy to remember. Jata Negara, very catchy, right? So, what does this mean? Penggunaan Jata Negara diperkenankan oleh Raja-Raja Melayu. What does diperkenankan mean? I don't blame you for not knowing, because I originally did not know either. So, what does diperkenankan mean? It means allowed. So, the usage of the national symbol was allowed by the Malayan kings. Easy enough. If diperkenankan is a little bit out of your vocabulary, speaking from personal experience, then you can replace it with a different word. Diperkenankan, it means allowed. So yeah. Moving on. Bunga Raya. So, unfortunately, again, I do not have a hurayan for this. So, bunga raya dipilih oleh Tunku Abdul Rahman sebagai bunga kebangsaan. So this will land you 1 mark. Again, very easy to remember, so you can just shove that in there if you want. Obviously there'll be some questions that ask jelaskan peranan jabatan kuasa persediaan fizikal, and if you're knowledgeable enough, then you'll know that the question asked jelaskan, which means explain, which means you need to write an explanation after the fact. So I'm not so sure if writing this will land you a mark, since I don't have a explanation for it. Because really, how can you explain it? I guess you can explain it by writing what bunga raya represents, but it's not given in the textbook, which is why you should just write about these 3. Yeah. So that's all. That's all for Jautan Kuasa Persediaan Physical. How are you feeling? You feeling tired? Like you're in a history class? Well, it's fine. You can pause the video and go somewhere to rest. But if not, let's move on. So, Jautan Kuasa Sambutan. This is Gojo chanting. So you can say the celebrational committee is in charge of the chanting, so that the hollow purple can become 140% or something. I don't know. Yeah, basically the chanting is the celebrational committee's contribution, while the physical preparations committee contributes the red and the blue. Very easy. Now, obviously, I'm not sure if this is a valid analogy, but I don't care. I mean, I'm just a random guy, so believe me if you want. I'm not even covering the entire chapter, just a few subtopics. So, moving on, the motive of this committee is to liven up the celebration on a state level. Peringkat means level or phase, but here it means level. Memeriahkan, liven up, Maria. I mean, it's kind of difficult to explain, but you should understand it. Oh fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. So, first of all, this is the easiest to remember in my opinion, so I put it here. Gaji, salary. Pegawai dan kaki tangan kerajaan diberikan gaji seminggu lebih awal. So, officers and assistants of the government were given their salary a week in advance. Why? To give them a chance to celebrate Independence Day. I did not put Hari Kemerdekaan. I am deeply sorry, but it's also correct. You can write this as well, but yeah, give them a chance to celebrate independence. Basically, I'm not sure where the logic comes in from this, but you can kind of decipher it on your own. I don't know. Sejarah, there isn't really like logical thinking in Sejarah, right? All you do is bullshit your way through it and remember the stuff in the textbook, and then you get an A. In my experience, at least. Anyways, bangunan di sekitar bandar jalan raya dan padang gelap Selangor dihiasi lampu. So unfortunately, I do not have a huraian for this. I don't know if it's in the textbook. I'm basing this off of some notes I have. But basically this means structures in the nearby area of the city streets and Padang Gelap Selangor were decorated with lights. Yeah, they're decorated with lights. I mean, it's very common. Very common. Padang Gelap Selangor is one of the other destinations where Independence Day was celebrated alongside Stadium Merdeka. Yeah, just a little thing you should know. That those were the 2 destinations that it was celebrated at. So next, we have the persediaan pakaian khas untuk Tunku Abdul Rahman. So a special set of clothes were prepared for Tunku Abdul Rahman. So this is the pakaian dari negeri Kedah, yaitu baju muskat diubah sesuai untuk Tunku Abdul Rahman. What a luxury! He got a set of clothes that were fit for him. It's specifically tailor-made for him. So it is a set of clothes from the state of Kedah, which is the baju muskat clothes, which were fit for him. Next, penganjuran kursus khas berkaitan dengan protokol yang diikuti oleh 300 orang pegawai kerajaan. So this is kind of a convoluted point here. I don't recommend writing it, even though it's the... Never mind. Even though it's one of the few ones here that have a hurayan, I don't really recommend writing it. It's a little bit convoluted. Like, what I mean by that is it's not one of the points that would immediately come to mind when you think of the role of the celebration committee, you know, but still, it has a hurayan and it's valid, so you can write it. So, penganjuran kursus khas berkaitan dengan protokol yang diikuti oleh 300 orang pegawai kerajaan. Why did I read it again? So, pegawai itu bertindak sebagai pegawai penerangan dan pegawai pengirim tetamu. So, what does this mean? What does the explanation mean? Means basically it's explaining what these officers were for. Oh, I didn't explain the top. Okay. The fact means the hosting of a special course regarding the protocol, which is to be followed by 300 officers of the government. So this will land you 1 mark. The explanation. These officers act as explanation officers, and the guest greeters, I guess. They greet the guests, like the people who flew in from Britain and some of the Malayan kings of each state. So next. Oh, that's all for jawatan kuasa sambutan. So now we have kesan kemerdekaan terhadap negara kita. As you can see, budget got cut here, so no special picture because, you know, I got bored while making this. So we have the kesan kemerdekaan terhadap negara kita. So the effects of independence to our country. So there's actually 4 sectors which it affected here, but I only covered PES because I got bored of making the presentation. I mean, can you blame me? I'm a science student. I got bored. So anyways, let's move on to our first one. P, politik. Yeah, here. The three dudes of, the 3 prime minister. I'm sorry. And the rakyat, yo! Notice how the rakyat is below them. I'm not spreading any messages, by the way. Anyways, let's move on. Here you can see, reminds me of a organic chemistry tutor video. If you know, you know. Pengamalan sistem raja berperlembagaan. 1 mark. This is the fakta, obviously. So the preceding answers will be listed like this. Yeah. So the implementation of a king system, royal institution system. Yeah. You don't really need to get too into it. You just need to know that this is the answer. So, YDPA menjadi ketua utama negara. I'm not saying again what YDPA stands for. If you still don't remember what YDPA stands for, I'm not saying anything. So, that's one of the hurayan. The next one, negara kita mengamalkan konsep raja berperlembagaan. Our country uses the concept of a royal institution. Yeah, look. There's proof right there. So next, demokrasi berparlimen. A democratic parliament. So the civilians, they have the right to speak out and choose their government. They also have the power to choose their government and or rulers through the elections. So this is a picture of the parliament on a, I think this is the national level, or I'm not too sure. But actually, I have been here before on a field trip. Haha, flexing on all you guys. Anyways, next, I forgot to put the marks here, but you should know by now, each hurayan lands you 1 mark. This fakta lands you 1 mark, 3 marks here. Be easy. So next, pentadbiran negara, the the ruling, the authority, national authority. Tunku Abdul Rahman dilantik Perdana Menteri PTM pertama. So, PTM, PTM. So, Tunku Abdul Rahman was elected as the first Prime Minister of PTM. So, besides that, you can also write Dato Abdul Razak Hussein. I forgot to add Hussein. His full name is Dato Abdul Razak Hussein, okay? That's his full name. You just have to remember that. I forgot to add that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This guy, I mean, even so, he's not all that memorable, you know? Everyone gives the credit to Tunku Abdul Rahman anyways, and it's not like you need to write more than one Hurayan, so you should just remember the first one. But if you do want to remember this one, just know that his full name is Dato Abdul Razak Hussein, and he is the deputy prime minister, deputy assistant. Basically, when he's absent, he takes power. You know, that secondary role that nobody cares about but still exists. Next, we have Cabaran Kerajaan Persekutuan. 1 mark. So the challenges that was faced by the government, the federal government. Hello. So you might be confused. Why am I introducing myself again in the middle of the video? Well, I will tell you what happened in the description of this video because that's off topic and you probably don't care. So let's just get back into it. It's been 16 hours since I last recorded. So I also watched the footage where I left off, so I left off on the challenges that were faced by the federal government. Let's move on. This is 1 mark, this is the fact. So what challenges were faced by them? The replacement of European officers the replacement of European officers with local citizens. Because why would you want the foreign workers in the professional field rather than your own workers? I mean, that's a bad look on your country, am I right? So, yeah, replacement of foreign European officers, especially in the sector of professionals. And here, my picture budget. I mean, I kind of got less creative. There's only the flag of the government here. Yeah, the budget died. Let's move on. Economy. So this is the second level. This is E. Economy. Let's speed this up because after reviewing the video last night, I realized this recording has been going on for more than 30 minutes. Not that good. Let's go. So, Rancangan Malaya Pertama, the first Malayan plan. So this is the fakta. It's basically a plan that the government made up in order to mengurangkan kadar kemiskinan, reduce the poverty rate, menambahkan peluang pekerjaan, increase the chances of work, meningkatkan pertumbuhan ekonomi negara, and increase the economic growth of the country. Simple enough. In my opinion, these three are all very easy to remember, but since the second one is very general, it's like a thing you can write anywhere, I recommend remembering the second one. So let's move on. Lembaga Kemajuan Tanah Persekutuan. The institution of land development. Federal Institution of Land Development. FELDA. I have no idea what FELDA stands for, but this is what it says in Malay, so remember in Malay, because obviously Sejarah is in Malay, not English, so, which is a shame. So let's move on. What this brought was it developed new land on a large scale of agriculture and where people lived, just like developed residential areas and agricultural areas, memajukan tanah baharu secara besar-besaran pertanian dan penempatan semula masyarakat. Those the huraian 1 mark. I understand it may look like a long sentence and there are a lot of words that maybe you might not know, I don't know, but just like I said before, just remember the meaning and the essence will still be there when you write it in the exams. Let's move on. Institusi keuangan tempatan. Local financial institutions. So here there is no huraian, there are only contoh, so yeah. So Malay National Bank merupakan bank pertama khusus untuk orang Melayu. So the Malay National Bank is the first bank which was exclusively for Malay people. Yeah. And another example, Bank Negara menggalakkan kestabilan keuangan dengan menyediakan yang kondusif. What? Oh, hold on, let me check my notes. This doesn't seem right. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed a word. Well, I guess this is what happens when you play games while also making a presentation. Okay, so the National Bank, the country bank, National Bank, whatever, encouraged the stability of finance by preparing a conducive environment. Sorry, I forgot the persekitaran. So the full sentence here is actually Bank Negara menggalakkan kestabilan keuangan dengan menyediakan persekitaran yang kondusif. So yeah, that's the whole sentence. My apologies, but this first one very easy to remember. You know, it's just Malay people making something special for themselves. Very nice, Malay National Bank. The second one also quite. This one is more general in my opinion. So, oops, my bad. This one is more general in my opinion. So as long as you remember, it's dengan menyediakan persekitaran yang kondusif, then everything's fine. Okay, let's move on. Rancangan Buku Merah, the infamous Red Book. So, if you attend a Chinese tuition or your school teacher is Chinese, then you may have heard her refer to this as Xiao Hong Su. So, basically, Xiao Hong Su, it's the Chinese TikTok ripoff, the Red Note. I don't use it myself, so I have no idea what goes on there, but you know, it's popular enough for teachers to make a meme out of it by referencing it here. But this is the Red Book Plan, rancangan. So, oh, I forgot to put the marks again, but it's fine. This book contains projects regarding, how do I explain this? This book contains projects regarding facilities, basic facilities. Yeah, asas, kemudahan asas. So, yep, this what this book contains, you know, construction projects. Honestly, I have no idea why it's such a big deal. Maybe it's the first ever of its kind. But yeah. So as an example of one of the facilities that it was planning, so we have the village roads, jalan kampung, jambatan dan surau. So bridges and mosques. SPRT is short for seperti. Sorry, it's not a very common. It's not a very common abbreviation for the word, but you know, I made it up myself. So let's move on. Pembangunan luar bandar, rural development, as you can see here. So, there was this majelis, this party as in the group of people, not the event. So yeah, keep that in mind. So the party of rural development planned and executed this project of development. Yeah. This is what it's called, the Majlis Pembangunan Luar Bandar. Specially made to develop the rural areas of the country. This is the last one on here because, well, it's not all that remarkable in my opinion. So yeah, let's move on. Social. Alright, I spelt it with a C because I'm too used to English. My bad, guys. But please do remember that social in Malay is spelled with an S here instead of a C. Sosial. But come on, that's child's play. You should know that. Let's move on. Pendidikan, education, very large thing. So here, this is obviously, well, not obvious, but this is when I stopped playing games. So, yep, you can kind of tell there's an improvement, kind of, not really. But anyways, education, 1 mark. This is the fact. So basically, if you're, if you, the question is nyatakan or not nyatakan, jelaskan tentang kesan kemerdekaan terhadap negara kita dalam sektor sosial, then you can write pendidikan. Yeah, the focus, like kesan kemerdekaan terhadap negara kita dalam sektor sosial ialah pendidikan. And that's all, full stop, 1 mark. Very nice. So, after that, you just write the hurayan and another mark. I forgot to add the mark. This is also 1 mark. This is the hurayan, obviously. So, the learning committee, kind of, emphasized the Malay language as the language for communication in school. Very easy to remember. Bahasa pengantar. It's kind of like communication language if you want to dumb things down a bit. So yeah, basically in education, the effect was this committee emphasized Malay as the communicational language in school. Let's move on. So, Penubuhan Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, DBP. 1 mark. So, the creation of the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. So, this is basically the main organization of the Kamus Dewan National Dictionary. They basically control the languages and stuff. Yeah, I'm not too sure about it. It was made. This is just info on the side. I don't know if you really need to know this, but I'm pretty sure not, right? But still, it's nice to know. But it was built on the 22nd of June 1956. So that's before independence at Johor Bahru, which is obviously the capital of Johor. Yeah. And it is now I'm looking at my notes. It is an office which is under the Ministry of Education of Malaysia, so the KPM. Yeah, so this is, I guess it's a sub branch of the Ministry of Education of Malaysia. Yep. Well, obviously, right? Because they control the language and stuff. Let's move on. So the Hurayan here you can write. It's very easy. It's very short here. But it strengthens the position of the Malay language in our country. Yeah, obviously. So let's move on. Kesehatan, very easy. Health, you know. So hospitals were built in order to increase the social economic. Fuck. Okay, let's act as if that did not happen, and let's move on. Hospitals were instituted in order to increase the socio economy of the residents of rural areas. Now, I'm not sure why it only increases the socioeconomy of rural residents, but you know, if it does, it does, right? You just write it in the exams. So yeah. Health. I'm pretty sure it's the last one. Okay, there we go. So, oh, I didn't make a thank you slide. Okay, well, that's it, guys. Thank you for attending, not attending, but thank you for watching this horribly made presentation of Sejarah Tingkatan 4 Bab 10. Thank you, because I'm not a teacher. I am a student. So, and I've never been particularly praised as a good teacher, but if you did learn something, please tell me in the comments if I did well or if I did badly. You can leave a dislike and then tell me in the comments. You can criticize me in the comments about how I did badly. And yes, thank you very much for watching this little presentation. And if you are any of my classmates and you somehow recognize my voice, please don't send this in the group chat. Goodbye.